is pretty much saturated with feral hogs. Back in the early days, there was a lot of free range in stock. They would go out and tend their hogs and mark their hogs 2 or 3 times a year. Well, then as times changed, people changed, they just kind of became part of the landscape, part of the wild spread. What we have done as a state, private property, we've basically deregulated, completely allow people to take these hogs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no closed seasons, no limits, and they could take them pretty much by any means and methods that are legal, with any legal weapons. So it's really become very effective in areas where a lot of these farmers are having trouble with their hog problems and crop damage. About the diseases that these hogs carry. I don't know of any cases where any individuals have contracted any of these diseases. If you're out hunting and you shoot a healthy hog, it is possible for that hog to show a positive test, for example, brucellosis. But that test may only show that hog has been introduced to that disease, not necessarily infected with it. Properly handled meat is safe to eat. Properly handled, properly cooked, it's all safe. It's just like you go to Walmart, you buy chicken, okay? If you don't properly cook that chicken, you don't properly clean up after yourself, you're subjecting yourself to salmonella and other bacterial infections. So it's the same with pork or beef or any of those. If it's properly handled, properly cooked, it's as safe as any meat that you buy in a store.
I saw the pictures here, and you see hogs laying, rotting in low-lying areas, and you take that amount of hogs just decaying during rains, and that would seem real healthy for the water sources either.
No, sir, it's not good for the environment for sure. Yes, sir.
Piggybacking on that, Mingo that was shown here, don't they flood that for duck hunting?
Yes.
That's a possibly contamination.
Well, yeah, and in getting, into your rivers and your streams and everything else is obviously not a good thing. Allowing our hunters to go in our management areas and take hogs during the open seasons has actually kept these hogs at a somewhat manageable number. Hunting is one of the most valuable management tools that there is. And I'll give you an example. Look at waterfowl. Look at what Ducks Unlimited has done, okay? Ducks Unlimited's goal is to do positive things for waterfowl. The creation of habitat, increased numbers of birds, because hunters want more birds to be able to shoot. Okay, what is our goal here? Our goal here is to reduce numbers and to help farmers where there is less crop damage and so forth. Well, creating an awareness amongst all your hunters and all your hog hunting groups, partnering with the public, you can become closer to reaching your goals. Will we ever be able to eradicate hogs? I don't think that that's ever going to happen because they're just way too prolific. But management, if you could properly manage them, and there are a number of ways to be able to do that, and that's what these ladies and gentlemen are here to talk to you about today, and to ask for your help in being able to be part of that management plan. As a wildlife agent, I'm also a sportsman and a hunter. And I also hunt hogs, and I have owned dogs, and I've hunted hogs with dogs, and it is quite effective. And someone once asked me, well, what's the most effective way to get rid of hogs in a given area? To hunt them, trapping them, or hunting them with dogs? Well, that's not really an easy answer. I don't think that one method is really any better than another. but all three of them combined could really help and make a difference.
One more last question,
Yes.
just because we're talking about, the transportation of them. Would you allow anyone to transport the feral hog alive?
Right now, there was a law that was passed in our Ag and Forestry Division, statutes that doesn't allow the live transport of feral hogs without a permit. The permit is free. So the benefit to the transporting of the live hog is you catch a big boar hog, you bring him home, you put him in a pen. He's castrated, and you feed him out, fatten him up, and it's great eating. It's real good.
As
Yes,
a
sir.
agency, are you not tasked with eradicating, is that what you said? You guys are just managing the population you have now? You're not trying to eradicate, or?
Well, we as department employees aren't going out on a mission to
reduce the
to
population?
reduce the population. Hunters do that.
Has there been any effort with baiting hogs and trying to get some type of a poison in the back to get rid of it?
Our Department of Agriculture approved the use of poisons to be able to try to control hogs. The Secretary of our department, Mr. Jack Monasay, got with the Secretary of our Department of Agriculture, who's Dr. Strain, and asked him, you got to stop this, okay? Here's why. Poison is indiscriminate. It'll kill whatever eats it. That's the problem that we have with poisons. This is not something that the hog is going to go eat and fall over dead. It's got to have several doses, so to speak. Deer, bear, other species eat the same things that hogs eat. So you would also be killing those species as well. I'm with what's out there right now. I don't think that's the route to go. I would strongly recommend against the use of any type of poisons. But anyway, we got it stopped in Louisiana where we're not going to allow the use of these poisons to try to control the hog population because of the effect it's going to have on other species. When you introduce these poisons, then what's it going to do to the black bear population that we just worked so hard to get back into a healthy, sustainable number? But my recommendation would be is to partner with the public and allow the public, under certain conditions, to be able to hunt and utilize these hogs and perhaps make a market for them, which Mr. Sullivan's going to talk more about that. My role here is basically to tell you what we've been doing in Louisiana and what's been most effective. Well, thank you all very much, and I appreciate your attention, and you all have a great afternoon. And turn this over
Appreciate everybody having me here today. I would like to talk about how that I think the hogs got to Missouri. But I lived in South Arkansas where there were hogs my whole life. It was hardwood bottoms. They ate the acorns. Pretty much the hogs stayed there. What I see happening in South Arkansas, Louisiana, East Texas, we're losing our hardwood forest. They're replanting in pine trees. Pine trees cannot sustain hogs. If you look at the USDA map as they show the red, coming out of Texas and exploding, it's because those hogs are moving north. They're hunting food. They're following tributaries. As a pine thicket goes in and the hog cannot survive, he's moving every day. And there's nothing that's going to stop those hogs from migrating north. To keep them from coming this way, because there's a lot of food sources up here. You guys have a big, huge agricultural business up here. Also, up until 2006, we had buying stations in the state of Arkansas. Every man, woman, and child that wanted to trap hogs and collect hogs took them to these buying stations. We were selling anywhere from, I'm going to say, 2,000 to 2,500 head of hogs every year. Up until 2006, Arkansas didn't have a problem. We didn't have a single, the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission wasn't involved in feral hogs because there wasn't a problem. Our livestock and poultry regulated these buying stations. Do we have anybody from the Cattlemen's Association in here? All right. President Trump lifted the embargo on beef, where we can sell beef directly to China. That's also the fact with feral hogs. Feral hog is no different than any other hog that comes out of a farrowing house. There is a huge market for feral hogs, if not for human consumption, but for dog food. The FDA regulates dog food production. I just took a trailer load of about 315. I mean, it's a simple process that would put the public back in operation. Since 2006, and Arkansas locked us down, all of those old trappers went away. You know what I mean? They put the regulation and buckled down on them, and they just said, well, we're done. So since 2006, our hog population has probably doubled every year since the regulations have been in place. We're actually going backwards because of regulations. You have to get the public involved in the eradication or the reduction of numbers in feral hogs. I don't think you will ever kill out the amount of feral hogs, ever. But with the public's help and money involvement, it's zero cost to taxpayers in the state. These guys right here are doing it for free every single day. But just imagine what these guys would do if they had some kind of monetary incentive, and could haul them to a dog food plant, or if they could haul them to a processing plant, they could turn around and go to your food banks. After 2006 and they shut our buying stations down, I started donating to my county sheriff's department. I fed every inmate in my county sheriff's department for about 6 years. It was a good deal for me because I would take the hogs there alive, they would butcher them there, and they would give me half of the meat. It was more than I could eat, so I would turn around and donate it to the food bank. But it was some kind of value to me to make me want to go out and kill feral hogs. Restrictions and regulations and laws on feral hogs only discourage the public to kill feral hogs because it is not in our DNA to kill something and let it rot. That's just the way it is. And there is a market out there for those hogs. The numbers you get from your game department, you can believe them or you can't, you know what I mean? You don't have to believe them. I don't believe them personally. But there's hard data kept by this slaughter facility of who brought it in, how much it weighed, what's the sex, what county it come out of. It's hard evidence on what we're doing to know if we're doing any good. And ship 3.24 million metric tons of processed feral hog meat to China. Those numbers are staggering.
Are they USDA inspected?
Yes, ma'am, they are. They have to be brought in alive, and they have to go through what USDA calls a humane killing process. It's the same thing that Jimmy Dean sausage hogs, they have to go to market on a truck alive. Same thing, but there is a market for these hogs. The French, believe it or not, the bigger the badder the boar, the more they like them, and they pay more money for them. It's a market value thing. The market rises. When the market goes up, the people at the processing plant start getting more money. They start giving head bonuses. On top of what your market value is, they want the hog so bad because they got orders to fill that they will start adding additional head bonuses on every hog you bring in if it weighs over a certain amount of weight. In Texas, it's really taken off with the with the markets. That's another way to get rid of feral hogs. I will tell you this on the poison end of it. If they introduce poison in the state of Texas, every one of these slaughter facilities will shut down. It's not worth the risk to them, you know what I mean? They will close the doors. And that's production facilities, and also there's a company called Wild Boar Meat. Will Herring owns it. He's the dog food plant operator. He's the one that filed the lawsuit to get them to stop the war for poison. He's growing so fast. He has one facility, and now he's in the process of building another facility.
I have another question on the processing aspect of it. So, are they considered feral hogs separate from the swine?
The USDA classifies them as one and the same.
Okay.
A lot of the USDA processing facilities are so large they don't want to deal with a 30 count or a 20 count or something like that.
A couple of years ago when I looked into processing, that's where we kind of ran into it.
The large USD, what you would see happen in the state of Missouri if they did that, it would be the same as Arkansas. We have class 1 slaughter facilities. that do deer and wild game, and then you have a Class 2 USDA slaughter facility. What you would see is your smaller slaughter facilities like custom butchers and things like that get their USDA certification where they can process the 20s and the 30s and the 50s brought in. That's one way that I think that the public can prove their worth. I can tell you from my research alone, this is a collaborative effort across the South. They have been gearing up on this feral hog issue since about 2013, 2014. They've got a group, it's called the Southwest something Alliance. It's all the game departments that go to this conference every year. If you read this information, and I read through every single page of it, my game department in 2013 said we didn't have a feral hog problem. The end of 2013, after going to this conference, they came back and said that if we don't get rid of the feral hogs, everybody in the state's going to die. I mean, it went from us not even having a problem, they didn't know about the problem, to 2013, we had to pass this legislation today. You know what I mean? Or the hogs are going to kill everybody. I have a feeling there's some federal dollars that's to be had, and all these states are wanting to be. They can either be classified as a 1, 2, 3, or 4 class burden feral hog state. The higher the number, the more money you receive in federal grant dollars. But they have to prove that they're a feral hog burden state before they can get the grant dollars from the federal government. So, as the population grows, your money grows. That makes sense? Thank y'all very much.
These things are just coming to public attention now, but a lot of us have been suffering through all of this for quite some time. So I wanted to go to the headwaters of the problem. The feral hog population did not become a problem until the USDA started handing out grants. Before that, they weren't a problem to anybody. Yeah, you got some in your backyard, but we have raccoons. I've had to quarantine my kennel twice because of skunks. We don't have a skunk task force. Why does none of this make sense? You have to go to the source. 1992, the UN Agenda 21 program, control the food, control agriculture, blah, blah, blah. Depending on who was in our presidential seat at the time, this initiative was either pushed forward or pulled back, pushed forward, pulled back. So obviously, under the Obama administration, it was embraced a little bit more than usual. So a lot of those policies were put in place at the USDA. They weaponized the USDA by creating a regulation enforcement division within APHIS. And the person that they put in charge of APHIS regulatory was a lawyer from the Humane Society. So a Humane Society lawyer whose mission in life is to ban recreational hunting of all kinds is now in charge of USDA regulations, okay? They knew they could never get the legislators to ban hunting. They knew we would never go for it. So they infiltrated the USDA. Now they just sit at a desk and write regulations that we don't get to vote on. This is a whole big backdoor hunting ban. No, we're not going to touch the Second Amendment. We're just going to ban bullets. No, you can hunt hogs. You just can't sell them. You can't transport them. You can't do anything with them. Oh no, the population's exploding. We need more grant money, okay? It's called wagging the dog, the tail wagging the dog. So we can get lost in the weeds all day about who did what and where they should be and whose farm they're tearing up. But the population explosion in the first place was created. It did not exist until they needed it to, so that then they could carry out all of these policies. So, if it starts at the USDA, then all 50 states interpret those regulations their own way. So each state has now gone forward. In Michigan, the DNR says you can't even possess a hog with a straight or a curly tail. That's every pig. Every single pig has either a straight tail or a curly tail. But that was the language that they put out there so they could enforce it whenever they arbitrarily wanted to. So they went on to people's farms, they said, give us some money or we're gonna kill all your pigs. Some of the farmers stood up, took it to court. They got a stay for a brief period of time. Eventually, the DNR went and shot these people's pigs in their pens on their farm because they had long hair. These pigs had never been loose, never been feral, never bothered anybody's soybeans. Okay, but this is bigger than some crop damage. This is political at its core. So we have to eventually get to the headwater and fix the problem. But until then, each one of our states has to have a solution of how to deal with all of this. In Missouri, I think you guys really have a great foundation already set up, but you have two issues here. You've got your Department of Conservation that has banned hunting on public property. That is a scenario all by itself because they are under no one's real authority. So we can't say MDC open hunting again. We've got to find somebody that can put enough pressure on them. They've gotten their order from somebody else. But as far as like the transport laws and taking the pigs to the sale, it's really pretty simple here because the Department of Agriculture already has 3 classifications of hogs: commercial, feral, and transitional. So a commercial pig is raised on concrete. A feral hog's raised in the woods and is at large. And according to the Missouri Department of Agriculture, a transitional hog is a hog raised on dirt and has had some contact with other at-large hogs. So meaning it's had some exposure to possibly brucellosis or whatever. But if it's classed as a transitional, the problem we have is they're calling it a feral hog because it was in the woods once 5 years ago. And it's now got to carry that tag forever and ever and ever, even though it's now in a farm, it's been tested, it's been wormed, blah, 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 blah. One department says, no, it's feral for life. That's like saying if you have found a stray dog on the side of the road, he's always going to be governed by animal control because he was loose at one point in his life. It doesn't work that way. They're feral, they're under the animal control of your state agency if they're at large. But I can go pick up a stray dog out here in the parking lot and put it in my truck. And it's now my property, unless it's somebody I determine it's owned by someone else. If it's at large, animal control or anybody can pick it up. But once it's in my possession, I can take it to the vet and I have to meet all the state, city laws vaccinating them for rabies, whatever. I'm held to that standard. So feral is the same word as stray. It just means it's at large. So once it's no longer at large, it's confined, and now it's in Missouri, thankfully, a transitional hog, okay? There is a path already written in your laws in the state that give a path to process those hogs in the future, whether you want to use them for personal use or you want to sell them to sale barn, whatever. The path has already been laid out. So there's no new laws that have to be made here. We just need to make sure that once the hog is confined, he gets classified by your law enforcement people in the proper category. But as long as they have political motivation to forever label that pig as something that they can get future grant money on, it's just a tug of war over the jurisdiction of this hog. These are jurisdictional issues. If I go pick up a pig on the side of the road and I put it in my truck, I think it's mine and it should be governed by the Department of Agriculture. Once it's in my possession, I need to go get it tested, put it in a quarantine pen, do whatever I need to do based on the Department of Agriculture law. It's the conservation departments who are like, hey, no, that's my money. Give it back. We're coming on your farm and we're going to kill it if you don't give it to us. It's like a tug of war with a stray dog. It's ridiculous. But it's all, that grant money is so seductive that they'll do anything. But I think that legislators have the power to say, once it's properly confined, not at large, not bothering anybody, then it's governed by this department, and there is a channel, if the hogs are healthy, they can be processed, they can be tagged, whatever, and that's how it should be. Anyway, what were you gonna say?
Well, the transport fee, the $2,500 in the state of Missouri, touch on that.
Okay, because of this manufactured crisis we talked about earlier, we started kind of touching on that now. They literally had to create a species so they could write separate legislation for it. So once you think of the word feral as stray, it makes a lot more sense. Why? What characteristics does a stray dog have? Okay, they can be big, little, short, fat, long hair, short hair, spots, no spots. That's basically native pigs in the wild. They're tall, short, fat, skinny. There is no what is a feral hog. A feral hog is a hog that's running around. Okay? If it's in a pen, it's no longer feral, like stray. It's either confined or it's not confined. So once the pigs are in the trailer, they should be considered transitional swine according to your law. And you don't have to have a $2,500 permit to haul transitional swine. That's why, I mean, you don't have to have a $2,500 permit to haul a Duroc or a Hampshire or any mixed breed pig. Wild hogs have been in North America since the Ice Age. They've always been here. In the history of Dunklin County, where my family's from, there were wild hogs and cattle running 2.5 million acres to the boot heel all the way up until the Depression, and then when they put the big drainage system in and they cleared 2 million acres of wetlands, guess what? All those animals went somewhere else, and they got nowhere to go because there's no trees left, just like Mr. Jeremy was saying. They're going for food. That's what they do. So it wasn't a problem in 1990 when some redneck from Arkansas drove them over the state line. That's ridiculous. They've always been here. But the state, as their food sources keep being depleted, they move around just like any other animal. To me, the reason that hogs right now are under everybody's microscope is hog hunters are, according to the Humane Society people, we're the low-hanging fruit. They want to ban all hunting, okay? So they figure that they'll snip the hog hunters off because we're just a bunch of rednecks anyway and nobody will miss us. But then they're going for the others because the plan has always been, since the beginning, to ban all recreational hunting, period. That's their goal. And as long as they're embedded in the USDA, we're going to see the stuff trickle, trickle, trickle. But this is all an orchestrated crisis. Right, we're going to serve food. Lunch. Thanks, everyone.